The Insight. We continue pace with the conversation with Professor Alfred Omenya, governance and policy analyst, also with Benjamin Dolo, governance and policy analyst, just looking at the political landscape in the country right now and revisiting some of the statements that have been pronounced by the president and the former deputy president as well. And also some of the headlines that have been picked and highlighted by the former deputy president as well. We shall showcase that, one of which is this one that we have here on the front page of the Star, which was on Tuesday. Gachagua to back Kalonzo, Natembeya and Matiang'i lineup. Ex-DP won't run for president, but will get 50% of Kalonzo government. And I think this also has sparked a lot of debate around it. And he came out also, gun blazing, around this particular headline saying, hey, I'm still in the race, which raises also many questions regarding his impeachment. Is he eligible to run for the presidency, while this case is still looming around him with the impeachment, which he has contested, I should say, in the courts.
Dibal, as we go to that, we're talking about
later, yes.
We're talking about fiscal prudence, and we're talking about basic fiscal prudence. One of the things that you have to like about Raila is, you know, love him or hate him, Raila loved this country.
Correct.
Raila was a patriot. Raila always thought and spoke passionately about the fact that Kenya was at par with the Asian tigers in the 60s. That is Singapore, South Korea, Malaysia. And these countries leapfrogged and left Kenya behind. He felt strongly about that. And that's a good thing. Raila also felt strongly about the founding fathers, their principle of what he called umaskini, ugonjwa, ujinga. If you go and look at the footage, and there's a lot of footage, the record, you see that Raila really spoke forcefully about the ills we had at independence in 1963 and the fact that these ills continued to dog us today. And so when you're wasting money in a crazy manner, when you're running a 3.5 trillion budget, but 50% of this country has human beings that go to bed hungry. Unless you're a madman, Dibal, and you, I know you're a Christian, I mean, we're talking about basic Sunday school stuff, that there are people unable to put food on the table. There are hospitals unable to provide Calpol, painkiller, oxygen in the nursery where preemie children are born, you know, prematurely. And then the example I was going to give, Prof, is, for instance, if I was president in this country, the one thing that I would shut the tap instantly is brand new cars. Right. We wouldn't buy any brand new cars going forward. We'd have a freeze for the next 5 years. And you have to have stuff like that. Because if you go around this country,
values.
Yes, if you go around this country in counties, former districts, Dibal, if you go to the judiciary, if you go across the executive, if you go even to Moi's old, excuse me, you know what you'll find there? Packed in there is Mercedes, Benz cars, dumped, Land Rovers, Range Rovers, and all we do is dump and pick new ones. And a brand new Toyota Prado is 12 million shillings. And every PS, every CS, every CEO, anybody in government has 2-3 of these units. How can a country run on debt that way? And this disaster began, it was always there, but it exploded under President Uhuru.
Correct.
So it's not for us to name call or to pass the buck and the blame or to be a cynic like Ndi. It is people get elected to provide solutions.
Correct.
And quick solutions, because we don't want this country to collapse. Dibal, as we have that discussion, I'm looking again at Article 197. It's a very interesting article. You can take a look on your copy of the Constitution, just to demonstrate how the leadership is not focused on the Constitution at all. This article talks about not more than 2/3 of the members of any county assembly or county executive committee shall be of the same gender. Things like those are flouted all the time. Article 197, subsection 2, Parliament shall enact legislation to A, ensure that the community and cultural diversity of a county is reflected in its county assembly and county executive committee. Dibal, in other words, the county executive committee, CEC, or the county assembly, for instance, of Homa Bay County, is not just a dumping ground for Jaluos and cronies and friends, it has to have cultural diversity of the county. It's not at the whims of the governor. And it's not enough, Dibal, for us to talk about corruption in government, whereas corruption is also in the counties.
Correct.
And everybody's looking at the national government. It's not enough to talk about wastage when there's also wastage in the counties. Or Kenya has 48 governments, 47 counties and the national government. And so we have to, and this falls on the shoulders of His Excellency the President, transforming the culture, the political culture in this country to one of constitutionalism. This is why Maraga is quite refreshing.
Right.
And one, frankly, Dibal, of basic logic.
Correct.
That you cannot earn 100,000 and live on a budget of $1 million.
Correct.
That's just simple. But when we talk like that on this show, Dibal, you'll get feedback there and phone calls. Oh, why are you bringing Benji? These people just came to abuse the president.
Correct.
Professor, he just thinks he's better than D. That's missing the point.
All right.
And so
allow me to just about
without having fiscal discipline, I don't want to be a prophet of doom. Without having fiscal discipline, Dibal, paying salaries is the least of our worries.
So yeah, if we do that, all these interventions that we're having from government, you're talking about the e-procurement, and still this, we can have the e-procurement, tighten all the loose ends, but still at the end of the day, if we are not as you say,
fiscally responsible,
exactly,
even just created a physical, a consolidated fund that we know everything is channeled through there.
Correct.
But you see, Uhuru changed that, and that was very illegal. If for a serious country, Uhuru would be in Dani. He'd be in jail. I'm sorry to say. It is Uhuru who circumvented the whole consolidated fund.
Right.
Because nowadays, I understand, you can spend without
going through consolidated
fund. And Dibal, I worked for the Auditor General. You look at a governor, should I say the county? Vihiga County. An afternoon, a governor withdraws 30 million in cash.
Okay,
the greed.
Wastage in government.
That's wastage.
Yeah.
But okay, let's try and then just bring the conversation also back to the issue that I wanted just to raise, especially with the political parties like Jean. And you'd raise, of course, everyone has been praising Raila Odinga, but he has his own also idiosyncrasies.
Yes.
And his own
and weaknesses.
And weaknesses.
Contradiction.
Very true.
Excesses.
As well. So one of which, and that you've highlighted, and I like just maybe to circle back on it, is the political party that he had without any clear institutional succession system.
Correct.
Yeah. How then do we, and it's not just within ODM, all these other parties as well, you find the key figure, while it is that particular person that is the linchpin of the party is gone, then the cookie crumbles.
Exactly. And Dibal, I think this is, of course, we're also addressing Gen Zs here and the future of Kenyan politicians. This one issue that needs to be addressed. Currently, the situation we're in is a situation where individuals, angle for political positions for whatever reasons. Most of the times, the reasons have nothing to do with the betterment of the country, or even the county, or even a constituency. A lot of it normally is because, again, of lack of talent amongst these characters, and they find this an easy way to make ridiculous wealth for themselves. And then they then craft the political parties to support that. So, for example, UDA was actually a vehicle specifically to support Ruto's election. That was a fact. Jubilee was a vehicle to support election of the former President Uhuru, and so on. So you find that these political parties largely they're fashioned more as individual things, and it goes all the way to PNU. There was a party called PNU that was a vehicle specifically for Kibaki.
Yes.
I think we need to move from there where we actually have sustainable institutions, where we can actually build parties, and say, fine, for good governance of this country, we need strong institutions, with very good talent, from where we can actually grow future leaders. Just like we're saying of the corporate sector.
Yes.
You can imagine an entire organization, an entire NCBA being put in place to support the chairman of NCBA. It's stupid. It's the other way around. That you need to create the institution, and then, of course, as a person who's created the fundamental shareholder in the institution, you'll end up, actually benefiting. But we see, in fact, even the former deputy president has a new outfit, which already you can see is using that to start angling and bargaining for his own interest and so on. And this is what is actually killing political parties. I don't know eventually how this will be addressed, but we need to start speaking out of it, that it is in the interest of our democracy that we actually have strong political parties that can contest power, that can hold each other to account, that can have some sort of ideology or belief and all those sort of things, where citizens can find spaces to express themselves. You see, these parties don't always need to win, the presidency or even an election. A good case is green parties across Europe, for example. We know that these parties, actually, the big agenda issue is always the environment. And in most cases, they always just have a couple of representation here and there, but they're able to then negotiate with the parties in power so that this particular agenda moves. It'd be good for the country that, that fine. I mean, if you're a farmer, then this is a sort of party that protects your interest. If you're an urbanite, living in the city, I lean more towards this party. If you're a hardcore business person and so on. So that there's something about these parties, in terms of...
An ideology that around, yes.
Yeah, I don't want to use ideology because it has been overused.
It's been overused.
Yeah, but even at a basic thing, ideology...
A rallying call.
A rallying call, an identity,
yes,
and so on, something about them. And then, of course, for me, it's really very critical that we need to grow leadership wherever we are, not just political parties. We need to grow leadership in the corporate sector. We need to grow leadership in the universities. We need to grow leadership in society generally. Yeah, so that...
you mentioned the issue of, yes, we have great leaders in the corporate sector, but when now they turn out and come to the government side, you find that particular...
Or they don't.
Or they don't.
Yep. They refuse to run.
Yeah, most of them are greatly shy actually to run or get into politics.
Correct.
So politics and the corporate is like a cheese and chalk completely. They can't mix. But
and
the question is...
And that's partly why we must continue having these discourses. For me, many times, many people have always told me, in fact, at some point I was being told when I was with Raila himself, where I was being told, oh, but Professor, what is your specialization? How come you're discussing politics on TV? And I was telling them, look here.
It affects everything.
What is the specialization of the late Raila? What is the specialization of our current President Ruto? These were professionals in their own rights. Moi was a teacher. Kibaki was an economist. So this whole idea that professionals don't get into politics is actually a fallacy that has been, passed around to sort of make it appear like there's a difference between what it is that we're doing and what it is that politicians are doing in terms of access to power and governance of the country. And in fact, for me, I think every single sector that we have should be involved in politics, should be involved in advocacy.
And every single Kenyan.
Exactly. And every single Kenyan.
Yeah, because I think, and we need to change the paradigm that is there.
Exactly.
Politics is dirty, is for the politicians.
Exactly.
Correct.
Correct.
That's all wrong messaging.
So that we have, in the circle of politicians, we are regurgitating the same faces and the same people.
Correct.
Exactly. Because this mentality has been there that I am, in the
and the mediocre politicians love that. The mediocre politician loves that because, they know they will not get competition. They'll not get challenged.
Yeah.
They'll be doing wrong things, and nobody will be able to tell them, no, sorry, it's not done like that. The Constitution says this, the law says this, and so on. So you see, they'll come and tell you, no. Dibal, continue working in the
because
leave politics to me. I'm the politician.
As you say, you rightly say that politics affect every conceivable aspect of our life.
Exactly.
It percolates everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
So policy.
That's how society.
Actually, I was telling a friend of mine that exactly that yesterday.
So when you say that you cannot actually be in politics, it affects policies.
Exactly.
And policies affect your life. Why are people talking about Sophia? Very, very true. Because it is actually some of the laws that are very, very undermining your rights.
How such a basic fact is not obvious to everyone is beyond me. And especially taxpayers.
Correct.
Someone tells you, I don't follow politics at all. I don't know what's happening.
I'm not
a taxpayer. That's so stupid.
But could it be also the hygiene of our politics that we've
but that's what we need to clean.
Exactly.
Displayed in our conversations.
We need to clean it.
So when a car is dirty, you have to wash it.
But at the same time, we need to actually push that advocacy. In fact, I was having a conversation with the president, and that's one of the things that I told the president. When I was a young lecturer, one of the things that I taught was policy. And the interesting thing is the convergence between policy and politics. And I used to give this example. When you're running for president or for senior positions, you'll always be asked, Dibal, that what's your policy on education? What's your policy on violence?
On health.
What's your policy on health? What's your policy? So what I used to ask the students was that, I've just declared that I'm running. What do these guys mean by policy? Do they mean a document I have somewhere?
Yes.
No, I don't. These guys don't mean a document at all. Policy at that level is from first principles.
It's philosophy.
It's philosophy. It is. What is your interpretation of this issue? So for example, somebody will say, let's use the example of education. Somebody will say, look here, my policy is free education or totally accessible education, as that were. That could be Benji's position. My position could be that, okay, fine, I want to strengthen, technical production in the country. So I lean more towards strengthening TVETs and all those sort of things. Somebody may come and say, no, for me, it's all about AI. These are the things. So you know that fine, if you elect Omenya, there's going to be an AI policy and law passed on day one. And energy, will be heading that direction. You know that if you elect Benji,
mine is UBI, Universal Basic Income. Yeah, exactly. Universal Basic Income. They'll call me a socialist.
Exactly. So
that everyone can have something.
Correct. And that's what I was saying. This is policy, this is politics. This is where it starts. These are the issues that you, as a society, want to take forward. And as a leader, you want to pick and actually run with. And that's the genesis of policy, and that's the genesis of politics. Because politics is simply us now positioning ourselves so that we can actually access power and push for the policies that we actually...
Can I take it a step further?
But don't you think also the Gen Zs, maybe they've had this epiphany? Because I think even before, they were really uncoupling themselves from politics.
Right.
Just as you said, I don't want politics,
Correct.
It's not my thing.
Right.
But right now, they've realized how policy really affects their life.
Directly.
The Gen Zs were very smart.
Directly.
You know, Dibala was in the protest last year.
Yes.
Because I like to come on a show like this and talk about what I know.
Correct.
Not what somebody sent me to say, not what I
Correct.
heard. Sometimes you have to get into something to really see what is happening. I'll take it a step further because, Dibala, as you know, I've worked with you for a long time. I like to formulate ideas and put them down on paper. I used to teach something called, not at the university, but listening to Prof, I realized that I can actually lecture very well.
Yep.
I used to teach something called P equals P equals P in my political consultancy. Politics equals policy equals people.
Correct. True.
Your policy and politics is nothing, Dibal.
Exactly.
If it doesn't,
Correct.
if it doesn't tie in, yes, it doesn't tie into the people.
Exactly.
So you can design SHA, for instance.
Correct.
You can design a security
Correct.
model, Dibal, within this constitution. But if it doesn't house people, if it doesn't serve people, no matter how much you fund it, no matter where, if you bring it from Sweden or Switzerland,
Correct.
it's useless if it doesn't balance P
Correct.
equals P equals P. And so
Correct.
where you find some of the deficits is you design an education system.
Correct.
You were talking about, who is it for?
Yes.
How does it, if the children get educated, but there's another one we used to call in the US those days, E for E or E. Education for employment or entrepreneurship.
Right.
Because education is just because, like a child gets graduation, they get educated, etc., but now they can't even get a job or they can't even think of how to start a business. So you're just at home depressed on drugs with 2-3 degrees. So the policy formulator must understand the local situation. I've talked many times, Dibala, about how to create jobs. I talked right in this studio. I remember Peter Mbaye was president that time. He was advisor to the deputy president at the time, or I think actually to CS Moses Kuria. And we talked about fuel pricing. We talked about how to do it.
Right.
We talked about how the president can actually go to these countries that have oil and negotiate even a special rate for Kenya. And also see what can we give back, because we have excellent beef in this country, Dibal, I think you know that. We have organic lamb that goes to Qatar, that goes elsewhere. And we cannot just be buying fuel at 180 shillings a litre when Kenyans are living on $1 a day. So you can see if $1 is 129, you can see that fuel can automatically be the driver to poverty. But then, do EPRA want to hear my voice? And why not? So in a serious country, somebody like EPRA will call you in immediately.
Exactly.
By the way, Dibal, I ran the campaign,
Exactly.
the oil price advocacy campaign under Clarion. I'm the one who ran that program
Right.
with Maurice Odhiambo, the
Right.
ED then.
Correct.
That resulted in this formula that we have today. But how many Kenyans know that? And did I do that for money? No. Did I do that for donor funding? I just had friends, organizations that we partnered with just to deliver something. Because remember, before this formula, Dibal, prices in Kenya only went up. This was some almost 14, 15 years ago.
Right.
And so again, Dibal, policy is nothing.
Thank you.
Is nothing without the people. Policy is not about Duale
Right.
shouting.
Right.
Policy is not about telling lies. Policy is not about borrowing more money. Policy is not about Eurobond. Policy is about deliverables.
Thank you.
When people question SGR's viability, that is not being unpatriotic, Dibal.
Right.
We must
So
do it.
I wanted just to reorient our thoughts as well, even as we're talking about policy, which will emanate from the parties.
Correct.
At the end of the day,
Correct.
they'll try and look at the manifestos. This is what
correct.
we want to do.
Exactly one of the ways.
And this is where I want to really come in and ask you, where there's intent by the parliamentarians to actually, as we know it, to amend the Political Parties Act, Amendment Act 2024.
Right.
And they're proposing to amend this particular Act, Cap 7D, in order to replace the office of the Registrar of Political Parties with Independent Political Parties Regulatory Commission.
Yeah.
And my question is there any rhyme or reason why we should actually be having an independent political parties regulatory commission? Are there any failings that we've had with the registrar of political parties? And will this commission try and bring hygiene in our political parties to bear at the end of the day? These things that we were talking about. I mean, I had a legislator today in Migori,
Right.
mentioning some very, I cannot even utter them on air.
Right.
Because I thought, like, truly, are we living in this epoch of time and somebody can actually mention some body parts, unflinchingly?
Right.
And their children, they've come up in force, they come out in force to actually be in that particular memorial ceremony. But you're mentioning your tenders, talking about a man's tenders.
Right.
I thought, no. We need to retract and find out how we can bring hygiene. Some of us, even our ladies of them, some sexual undertones that you have on the podium as well. This has been highlighted.
Can I take that and then Professor comes in? And the reason I want to do that, and then I'll just let Professor run with it.
Okay.
Dibal, I like to be very, almost personal, as you know, and I have a friend who was running for office. So he was part of a team. This is just recently, I think from around 2017, Prof.
Right.
And he was running for senator in one of the counties in Western. So Dibal, this is a very interesting example because many times we get in these discussions and we forget that the electorate is not innocent. The electorate is one of the culprits in this whole political mess we have in this country. The people, the ignorance Raila was talking about, that we talked about at the beginning of independence, Dibal, that our people, disease, ignorance, and poverty, those three ills. The electorate, Dibal, is not innocent. Why do I say that? Because my friend, as part of the team that was doing the manifesto, and they're probably watching this show, so they came up with a manifesto for running for office that had all the technical details.
Right.
This is the GDP of the county. This is the cash crop of the county. This is where the former governor went wrong. This is what CECs should do. This is what the county assembly should look like, etc. So they had that whole manifesto. But then you have an advisory team. So the advisory team, Prof, had still another manifesto that includes now mobilization. And mobilization is dancing, mobilizing pesa ya chakula, talking about those sexual things you're talking about, etc. And now it came the time to make the decision to roll out the campaign. And Dibal, I'm sorry to report to you, at this desk this evening that once they looked at both of the manifestos, they told him, as long as uko na hii chama, and then you go and talk about women's, paraphernalia, and how much of a man you are because uko na bibi waine, this other manifesto of these two, this is one that you'll win with. So they went with that one, and he won. Dibal, I'm not trying to be as dramatic as Richard Onyonka, but usually I watch and that's how dramatic he is.
Correct.
We had a poll, and Gen Zs have done very well. We had a poll where Gen Zs, some 2 years ago, said, in Kenya, it is okay to make money no matter how you made that money. So the electorate, Dibal, is to blame, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention because the person in Migori was not exactly stupid, or he didn't make a big mistake. Even those things, Governor Kahiga should not be a governor today.
So
it's also...
He knew
yes,
that culture.
And
that is a staple of what this political culture
actually, we had a candidate in Makangundo who said, he went around saying, Dibal, people are saying mimi ni mzee, but if I remove my trouser here, I can impregnate like 10 women here. And people are laughing, clapping. They're finding it so funny. It's not funny. It's stupid. And that stupidity breeds stupid leaders. And stupid leaders do not respect you. Stupid leaders steal from you. They make you poorer. And the cycle continues. And you clap for them. And they take vast lands. And you continue to suffer generation after generation.
As I say,
Prof, take it away.
If you elect comedians, you expect
you get a circus.
Exactly.
in Parliament.
You get a complete circus. And that's precisely...
Am I wrong for my example?
No. It actually makes perfect sense.
It's on point.
Sometimes when you're listening to, to what you're seeing outside there from leaders, you're shocked whether this is the sort of leadership that you have. Of course, Dibal, I think they started with throwing out the entire, I think is Article 6 on the...
Actually, I was
Leadership and integrity.
Yes.
Here it is, Article 74. Before assuming a state office, acting in a state office, performing its functions, a person shall take and subscribe the oath or affirmation of office in the manner and form prescribed, etc. Just on this alone, we have violation of the Constitution.
Exactly.
And that, you can petition a court and even dissolve a government.
Correct. So back to my question.
So that's the Constitution, not me.
Do you think this regulatory commission, the independent political parties regulatory commission, will make any...
In fact, I was just coming to that.
Understandable differences?
No, bureaucracy, no.
I was just coming to that because we actually have quite a bit of these independent commissions, including one that is to deal with these sort of issues, the National Cohesion and Integration
NCIC.
Commission. It exists. And I'd totally forgotten about it. I thought it had disappeared until when...
The problem is the chair, Kobia.
Exactly, until when they appeared the other day when Kaiga made that particular statement. If you look at these commissions and the ones that tend to do a bit of work, not a lot, majority of them are the ones that don't deal directly with the politicians or don't touch onto politics at all. Maybe to some degree the Public Service Commission or JSC and so on. Any that touches on the politicians, in fact, should just be disbanded because the politicians run rings around this, interfere, whether it's Oginde's anti-corruption thing or this national cohesion and so on. The problem is not, and that's the issue, the problem with Kenya is not our constitution, is not even the laws. It is the impunity of the political class.
Yes.
In fact, we're talking about a situation where we were worried about the conduct of our president, and then we subjected him to law so that he wasn't above the law. Now everybody, including MCAs, are behaving like they're above the law. They drive on wrong sides of the road. They say this stuff that you're saying. We've seen members of parliament and legislators shoot people and get away with it. We see these people looting and stealing every day, actually, and enjoying the loot publicly, not even privately, as it actually were. So the parliamentarians should actually ask what is the issue. Is the issue the register of political parties and creating this independent body? What will it achieve that the register of political parties can actually not do? If we don't figure a way of conducting our politics differently, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whom we actually bring on the table. And to me, that's why in my advocacy, I'm a firm believer in leadership, and I'm a firm believer in leadership at the top. not just a firm believer, even intellectually. We know that the way to you can transform society through these policies and through laws and so on, but that takes forever. It takes a very, very long time because you see, to change the society in a fundamental way, you sort of have to change its power structures. You know, some of which are deeply rooted.
It's a bit of a social engineering
exactly.
you have to do.
But on the other hand, if you have an actor with power, this is the actor agency theory. If you have an actor with a lot of power, they can change societies overnight. This is what revolutions do. They actually come and shatter all these well-entrenched bad behaviors in society, and you're able to see change quite quickly. And that's partly why I still believe that if we are serious about bringing change to this country, we must start by changing the president, because that's the most powerful actor we have in this country. And if you have somebody who's morally upright, who obeys the rule of law, who uses state power to actually for advancement of the good of humanity and the good of our country, we will see change quite rapidly. And on the other hand, these actors with power are a threat to change. You see, even if you're creating these policies and legislation and so on, and you have a president who does not believe in those things,
yes,
they're able to use their power to basically reverse what it is that you're actually trying to do. And of course, what comes to mind sometimes was when these actors with power in 2002, that's 2003, came in, and that was Kibaki and the late Raila and that entire team. Kenyans felt quite empowered to the extent that they were able to arrest corrupt police officers on the road there, and you couldn't just pick bribes. Why were they picking bribes? What had changed? The only thing that had changed was that an actor with power had gotten into the scene, and it was very clear that this particular actor was not going to condone some type of behavior. Of course, we lost that somewhere along the line, but ours, in fact, the quickest way, we sort of have the laws.
And he's operating within the law.
Exactly.
The quickest way. Not extra.
In the law, exactly. Correct.
Extra legality.
In fact, there are no extra legalities. Even when the hygiene in the matatu industry was brought in, there are no additional regulations. It was simply the regulations that were there. That somebody said, look here, we need to follow these regulations and laws as already they exist in our books. But when you get a crook and put them in a position of power, their interest is not to follow the law. In fact, they look at the law as an obstacle. Their way is to use the law to then rubber stamp their actions. And this is where, as Kenyans, we need to take the debate. We need to ask ourselves, even in these campaigns, who are these actors who are likely to use state power to then propel the country forward, as was envisaged in our constitution? And who are these actors who are likely to take us backwards? Let me give you a very basic example.
Which can be a bit tricky as well.
And is linked with what...
As a balancing act.
Exactly. And is linked with what we're discussing here today. Nobody was seeing this thing. I've been listening quite carefully to one Oburu Odinga. And one of the things that Oburu has said that's very, very interesting, and nobody was paying attention to this, and this is actually in our books here. Oburu was saying, look here, these fellows who went to work for government, these people are not expected at all to do politics on behalf of the party. They're not expected to speak on behalf of the party because they're actually public officers. They're working for the government of President Ruto. They're meant to be neutral civil servants who are serving everybody equally. He didn't put in those words, but for me, that was the happiness that I was seeing. Because you had this noise again that we're talking about in ODM, where you've got members of parliament making noises, you've got principal secretaries making noises, then you have actual politicians seated in parliament making noises and all these sort of things.
It's mannerless.
Exactly. So this constitution that we're talking about prescribes how a public officer is meant to behave. You cannot be having a situation where somebody is spending the entire weekend campaigning for ODM, but this person is also a minister in President Ruto's government. This person, as a public officer, is meant to serve the country in as neutral a way as possible. And these are the things that we're talking about. Some of these things are already in our books. We need good behavior. In fact, we need the guy at the top there to tell some of these guys that, look here, Bwana Joe, look here, Bonambadi.
Wetangula.
Look here, Wetangula. You know, now you're actually a state officer. You are no longer a party leader. So we don't expect.
But you saw
right.
the cabinet secretary of health.
Yes.
He had the temerity to
Exactly.
actually question
That's
and say, on what legal ground are you holding us or barring us from politicking?
Exactly.
Because that is not really enshrined in the Constitution. There is a lacuna there.
No.
Yeah, no. They were here. And they showed, because
No,
it does
you
not
see,
say expressly.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
No. Let's just, because you're actually quoting
whatever.
the Public and Ethics Act, isn't it?
No, you see, the conduct of public officers is actually quite. I mean, of course, you don't normally.
How can a CS be partisan?
Normally, we just go to this part of how they get appointed. But in fact, if you read the Constitution, the conduct of public officers is tackled in a whole lot of different areas, and it spells out. It's very, very clear that public officers are not really meant to be partisan and play, partisan politics.
That is spelled out.
That's what is spelled out. Yeah. So
There is no vigilance for the defense of the Constitution.
Exactly,
That's the problem.
Exactly. So.
And even the media is complicit in that.
So you come in. You can imagine. You can imagine. I mean, let's look at it. We've seen Commissioner of Police making statements outside there in political rallies, and you're like, really?
I mean, even now there was a case in Cote d'Ivoire
We're talking about
where they are refusing the National Police Service Commission its role of hiring and doing all the human resources functions for police officers, and in essence, trying to make the Inspector General what the Commissioner of Police used to be.
Correct.
Now, if such an overt action is not widely reported and is not flagged as a danger, where are we headed? And that is the judiciary passing such judgments. Mm-hmm. Because these are some of the very, if you remember, one of the surprising, I might say, progressive things President Ruto did on his first day in office, the day he was inaugurated, was to separate the budget of the IG from OPA.
Correct.
Am I right?
Correct.
Mm. And also to appoint the judges Uhuru had refused to appoint. Mm. Now, how do you do that?
Correct,
yeah, how do you do that? And then 2-3 years later, a judge sitting somewhere in the judiciary rules, so what is the function of the NPSC? Which is a constitutional body duly in office. So some of the actions, Dibal, that are happening is basically an attempt to overthrow the Constitution. And without this Constitution, really, there's no Kenya. Because this Constitution is very progressive. I've just demonstrated to you just random articles. Right. Gifting to a state officer. Mm-hmm.
All right.
So one second, Dibal. I'm reading 75 article 75(1)(c), demeaning the office the officer holds. I mean, it's in black and white, demeaning the office. When you start there, name call, when you tell lies. Mm-hmm. I'm not attacking anyone per se, but for instance, the whole issue on SHA.
Correct.
You know, when they said the DCI is moving in, where are we with that? When you talk about accountability.
Thank you.
A full-time state officer, Article 77, shall not participate in any other gainful employment. When police officers have matatus that are doing business. When a police officer in uniform stands on Ngong Road and just picks bribes in the full glare of the public on a morning. Then when I raise the issue, they say, that's just small money. What about the parastatal where people are getting big bribes? Now, what kind of a discussion is that?
Right.
Mm-hmm. What kind of a discussion is that?
I was just checking quickly here. You know, there've actually been advisories. Mm-hmm. And you know where the issue is even for the politicians. They'll start complaining now when public resources are used. When these guys now start campaigning with government vehicles.
Yes.
Where money is being used and all of those things. And incidentally, there was an advisory on this matter, on what public officers can do in relation.
A legal advisory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To partisan politics. As we're talking now, LSK is in court.
Yes.
On this same issue, you know. So basically saying, look.
LSK and Babu Owino, all
correct.
this as well, yeah.
And it's common sense.
It's common sense. We talked about common sense and logic.
Exactly, it's common sense and logic. Because part of the reasons why we, in fact, at the core of this constitution, that resulted in separation of powers. It was very simple. That if Omenya is a member of parliament for this particular constituency, then he's also the Minister for Health.
Yeah.
National Minister for Health. He's likely to divert national resources to his constituency. Mm-hmm. If so and so is Minister for Agriculture, from constituency B? And that's part of the reason why it was decided that no, let us have a separation so that these public officers are actually public officers.
Not even that.
Yeah.
If you're CS and you're a politician in nature, by the virtue of how politics is, for instance, you're hurling insults publicly at Raila.
Right.
You're also the CS for health.
Correct.
How are you supposed to put medicines and proper policy
Correct.
also in Nyanza where Raila comes
Correct.
from? So it's just, that's why we're talking about logic.
It's common sense.
That's why we're talking about common sense.
Yeah.
And if you don't apply, if common sense is not common,
Correct. But
you
it's
have
in
a
our
country.
books. It's being contested in courts. There's been advisory on these things. And that's why Dibala was saying that the problem is really bad behavior, and we need to call it out. The problem, and Benji highlighted that, the problem is that the politicians who are believers in the Constitution are not the ones who are in power. In a lot of these...
That's a fundamental point.
It's a fundamental issue. We have politicians who have spent the whole of their lives in politics, but on the other hand, have zero credentials in terms of fighting for public good.
And reform.
In terms of fighting for reforms.
And reform.
In terms of fighting for rule of law. Dibal, I'll give you a case. Yesterday, this happened to me, and I was very proud of myself. Yes, that was actually yesterday. My driver had a small issue with there's a kid who knocked themselves on my mirror, and the car then is taken to
Station.
Kilimani police station. So they said, okay, fine. I mean, we luckily released the car, but of course, then we are called to the station, and I say, okay, fine. What do we need to do to release the car? They said, no. Omenya, you need to find this particular kid who was not even hurt, and you need to find the family, and you need to find a lawyer to write for you an affidavit that this person will not sue you in future before he can release the car.
True.
So I thought about it. We waited. I told the officer that, okay, fine. I mean, this is actually quite interesting because the person has no issue. The person was not the one who brought the car here, actually. The car was, in fact, what the context of this was that this happened near school, and some G4S people came and brought the car. Anyhow, I spent all my time. We started tracing this person. We went through that process. Late in the evening, we were able to track the person, and we got the person, and then we talked. The person was wondering, why do you want me to sign? That I'll not sue you. I have no issue at all. But that's not the question. Yeah. So I told the person, no. You likely need to sign. So then, of course, we got to that time. We had to go together to see a lawyer. The person told me, look here, Professor, I'm very busy, but I'll see what I can actually do. So today morning I go to see a lawyer. The lawyer then tells me that actually, the affidavit is just meant to be you, saying that should there be an issue, you'll be available, you'll avail the car and so on. Yeah, so I told the lawyer, fine, then write, I'll sign it. So I signed this, and I go to the police. The police say, no, we told you that the other person has to sign. Yeah. The good thing is that I now had the person's number. But to cut the long story short, I basically wasted 2 working days, more or less. Somebody was laughing at us, an officer for that matter, was laughing at us and saying,
you've been taken in circles.
You don't understand how things work in this country. But you see, the reason why I'm saying that, and Benji...
And that's dysfunction.
And Benji highlighted it in relation to Raila. Mine was a very trivial issue, is that, some of us in positions of leadership, we must hold ourselves to a slightly higher standard.
Exactly.
It might be inconvenient. You may lose resources. You may be dragged in a court of law. But sometimes, because of what you stand for, you must actually be able to
take the steps and do the due diligence.
Due diligence.
Absolutely.
This is the one thing. Our leaders cannot even wait for 1 minute on traffic, leave alone following somebody who's not pursuing them for 2 days, so that the car can be released.
Yeah.
Yes, and fellows all tell me, oh, Professor, you have a lot of time. It doesn't really matter. But this is the problem that we actually have in this country, that the guys who have demonstrated fidelity to the law are not leading. The Orengos of this world.
Correct.
You know, people who fought and been there, the Nyongos of this world and so on. And meanwhile, characters who have actually demonstrated their
law-breaking tendencies.
And the law-breaking tendencies are now the ones who are purporting to be defenders of the Constitution. And we shall campaign all the way to the end that unless we change this type of leaders, we are not going to get anywhere, even with a very...
As a country.
Right. I can see we're remaining with a few minutes, and I wanted just to also rope in the issue of the State of the Nation address, which is coming up on the 20th.
Right.
And of course, the president will be speaking to the nation, just of course, cataloging what he has achieved, what the government is doing. But you also realize that during the State of the Nation address, one of the key elements that the president also presents to the Speaker of the National Assembly is the report of the national values.
Correct, correct.
And I've always wondered, all these years, yes, we've always had a national values reports presented to the Speaker of the National Assembly from the President.
Just as we've always had a national prayer
yes,
breakfast.
And we're looking at the articles, Article 10, I think, in the Constitution.
Yeah, Article 10.
Is this just an exercise in futility?
Correct.
Could we probe and ask, why is this national values presented to the Speaker of both houses, you know, because he's speaking, you know, bicamerally to both the National Assembly and the Senate at the end of the day? Because I think there is a reason why we have the Article 10.
Correct. Let me answer this question.
There's a reason why the president also, okay, and you mentioned, just going back, we have the National Cohesion and Integration Commission.
Correct.
Do you know also under the office of the president,
yes,
we also have a National Cohesion Directorate.
Correct.
That now prepares these particular national values.
Yes.
And the question has always been raised, is there a duplication of functions? Why would we have these two, national cohesion, which is an act of parliament, and this particular office in the Department of the Executive?
Dibal, let me before you go to Professor Omenya.
This is a good one. Benji, start.
Yeah, let me just start. Let me just give the momentum, yes, and then Professor Omenya can continue. And the reason, Dibal, I wanted to do that is because I worked as advisor to the Auditor General, Edward Oko. And a lot of people, especially professionals, know the track record of Edward Oko.
Right.
A lot of Kenyans might not.
Beyond reproach, like Caesar's wife.
You see?
That's what came through. Actually.
Edward Oko had a reputation in government.
Correct.
They used to, he had a nickname. They used to call him a fine gentleman. And Edward Oko, though he's 74 today,
right,
his father was a medical doctor trained in the UK. And the reason I wanted to give this example is because the Auditor General, who is really the mentor of the current Auditor General, Nancy, who has been really trying to fill his big shoes, always in all meetings, in all retreats, in every session, he always brought the entire office, which is an independent office that audits the 4 trillion budget. Right. So that's a tough job, Diba. And he always brought back to Article 10. So I would always go and read Article 10 to remind myself the national values and principles of governance. Correct. That bind all state organs. I'm reading it now word for word. And that all persons, whenever any of them applies or interprets the Constitution, enacts, applies, interprets the law, sub-article 2, the national values it now defines of governance include, Dibal, A, patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy and participation of the people. B, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination, and protection of the marginalized. C, good governance, integrity, transparency, accountability, and finally, sustainable development. Just imagine a president or a CS
upholding that.
Correct.
Upholding. There's a reason I'm giving that example.
That is like the 10
that changes.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That hinges
the entire.
Exactly.
Dibal, that changes the whole.
Correct.
Texture, look, feel, and climate of the office.
And
if you run State House that way, just on this alone, that changes the climate, the tone, the conversation, the interaction, the everything. And that's the Constitution.
And Benji, Imagine, and this is what you're talking about here.
I rest my case, Professor.
Imagine if the state of the nation were to be focused on this.
Exactly. And to deliver on this.
All these things are directly put there. Where we're saying, look here, yes, roads are okay.
Yeah.
You know, roads are okay.
Roads are good. Electricity is good.
But you don't have to report on it. Electricity is good, but you don't even have to report on it. Report on the utu of Kenyans. Report
on the software.
On the human dignity.
On the software.
Of the Kenyans.
This is what Sudi needs to read.
Report on inclusiveness of Kenyans.
This is what Farouk needs to read.
Report on good governance.
But you should refrain from mentioning names. I don't know in what context.
No, I said they need to read. There's nothing wrong with that.
Report on sustainability, on long-term sustainability. These conversations that we're having on these TV stations, these conversations that we're having all over the country, hinges on this thing. Where is the space for citizens to participate? These are the national values that we're actually talking about here. And I put it to you, Dibal, that the leadership that we currently have is so mediocre that they don't even know how to tackle this. And I put it to them that if they really truly aspire to greatness as leaders, this is it. This is where we must start. We must start looking at our institutions, democratic institutions, and the powers that lie therein. We must start speaking about the voices of our people, enshrined in participation and so on. We must start speaking about inclusivity. We must start speaking about that topic that I speak so passionately about in this country, that a Kenyan cannot live worse than an animal. Yes, as a human being, a new too. You cannot have children who can't go to toilets. You cannot have people, basically, not having food on the table and so on. Things that assault fundamental human dignity. And we need to push our leadership. We need to push our leadership from doing little things like roads and whatever it is, to something more fundamental. And that is actually about self-determination of every single citizen of this country. So if a citizen moves in this country, the person can say, look here, my friend, I'm able to do what I'm able to do. I know the future of my children is safe because I'm Kenyan. I'm able to do what I can do. I know my grandchildren will thrive in this particular place because they're Kenyan. I'm able to live in this country despite the fact that we are Oromo and our numbers are dwindling. We do not need an Oromo to represent us in parliament. We know the values of our country. We know the leadership of our country will protect minorities. We need rule of law. The same thing we're talking about here. Indeed. These are the national values that we're talking about. Right. And this, by the way, I think if the entire president's address to the nation was on each of these ones,
on the national values,
I would not bother how many roads that he has built.
And a scorecard on that.
Exactly, and a scorecard on this one. Let me tell you, I, Omenya, in my own small way, I've got Burjis working in my office. I've got Chonyis working in my office. Yes. I've got Kisis working in my office.
Me too.
I've got Luyas working in my office. Yes. I've got Luos working in my office. I've got Kikuyus working in my office. I've got Kambas working in my office. You might wonder how many people work in that office. There are less than 20. But I can tell you, you see the face of the country. Indeed. Because I believe in them, because I believe in these values. Meanwhile, you've got entire departments that are populated by cousins from the same place, by, same father, same mother. What sort of nonsense is that? We need to start actually holding our leaders to a higher standard. The laws are there, the provisions are there, the values are there, they're enshrined in the Constitution. The only thing is that our leaders do not look at this, and they do not look at us actually as a key thing that the leadership should actually revolve around.
Thank you. Right. And there we go. And we need just to wind up. And I like it the way you've just emphasized on it. That should be our Magna Carta moving forward. That we have the Article 10 of the Constitution that on the national values. We wouldn't be really seeking, to amend some parts of the Constitution because we want to, clamp on corruption or throttle on the free space that we have.
Are we done?
Free speech. Yeah, we're getting we're winding up.
Can I read just one communication from our audience out there? Hi, Benjindolo, watching you on TV 47's Daily Report Show. I'm reminded of your unwavering commitment to truth. It's always good to see you speak truth to power with your characteristic candor and conviction. Keep standing firm. Sincerely, Alex Mayer, Communications Director. My warmest regards both to Dibal and Professor Omenya.
Benji, Adibal, I hold the same opinion of you two. Really.
It's important.
Thank you, Prof. I really appreciate
We don't do this for money. We do this for love of the country.
Yeah, correct. And we hope,
Dibal, you're a good man. We need
they
more.
always say conversation or democracy dies in darkness, and the conversation is where democracy really
And when we stop talking, we start fighting.
Exactly.
Yeah, Dibal, you're a good man. We need more of you in Kenya. Asante sana. Let's have this discussion again. Hopefully this time the elected leaders will not run away.
Thank you, baby.
Exactly. So they can have conversations with citizens, but empowered ones.
And face accountability.
And face accountability.
Indeed. All right. We'll have actually delved deeper on the issue of the archives, just to, sometimes we normally bring up these pictures and we try to identify which year it was, but my laptop has gone off, so we'll actually do that next.
By the way, we do a Twitter space every Sunday.
Nice.
You should come and let's talk. Yeah.
Yeah, Prof has always been there. Yeah,
we work hard.
and we must.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. I really appreciate you coming through. Benjamin Dolo, thank you for coming through. And thank you for your valued company as well. May you have a restorative night.
Indeed.